Welcome, everybody, to the CFL Weekly Pick'em Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. The CFL Weekly Pick'em Show is brought to you by BetNow.eu. Make sure you go to BetNow.eu. Use the promo code Truth50 to get 50% added bonus on your first deposit up to $1,000. You can also go to thegruelingtruth.com, click on the banner for BetNow.eu at the top of the page. Just remember, Truth50. I am your co-host for the CFL Weekly Pick'em Show, Mike Goodpaster, and right now I'd like to welcome in my co-host. First up, we've got Brian Schmidt. How you doing, Brian?
I'm doing good. It's hot down here in North Carolina, in more ways than one, apparently.
Oh, yeah. My son's down there. He said it's really hot. And if Zim Bliss, if you're listening, you're an asshole. All right, next up, we have CFL legend, and I hate to get CFL young legend, Robert Drummond. How you doing, Robert?
I'm doing fine. That young is funny.
Hey, Robert is the youngest legend I've ever met. How about that?
There you go. That works. But hey, I'm up in Syracuse, New York, and it's hot up here too, except for the rain today and yesterday. But it's been scorching up here also.
Oh, yeah. I'm in Indiana, so we get like the 95-degree heat and the 95% humidity also.
Oh, that's bad. Florida gets that also.
Yeah, it's beautiful. But Florida, you can go jump in the ocean. Here, you just go jump in a creek where there's like weird shit in there that'll kill you. All right, guys, let's start off and let's talk about the Edmonton Eskimos, who bludgeoned the BC Lions 33-6. Second meeting of the season, the Eskimos are now 3-1. The Lions dropped to 1-4, sitting in last place in the Western Division. When we look at this, Edmonton looks for real. What about BC, Robert?
Ooh, I mean, for Edmonton to lose Mike Riley and look as good as they are, it's surprising. But I mean, BC's in turmoil. I mean, their team is struggling right now. It was so funny, not to jump ahead, but I was talking to my roommates when I was in Toronto earlier today, Marcelo Simmons and Adrian Smith, of Toronto fame, and we were just our hearts were broken about how Toronto's playing this year. But then we started talking about BC because I was in BC last year. It's just that it's sad to see when teams are in turmoil and teams are struggling like that because we are so talented, but they've got to find their way because, I mean, it's just they're not getting things done. And that just doesn't start with the players. It also starts with the management.
Yeah, and when you look at the players for the Lions, I mean, you got John White running the ball, Mike Riley throwing the ball. What's going on here, Brian? Is this savable? Because I don't expect Mike Riley to have a losing season no matter where he is.
Yeah, I got to think it's savable, but I got to tell you, this has been a shock. And I think it was today or yesterday. I mean, even Mike Riley said something on Twitter to the effect of, we are too talented to be playing like this. Again, I mean, we're still a little bit early, but I mean, we're getting to that point where you got to start producing and getting things happening. And right now, it's surprising to say they're not a good football team, but man, on paper they should be a lot better. But that's why the game's not played.
All right, but if it was played on paper, Edmonton would still really be good, and not on paper, they're still really good. I mean, if you're going to replace Mike Riley, Brian, Trevor Harris is the guy to do it with. He's a younger version. Not by much. I think he's younger, and he's about the same. But still,
I mean, but again, if you're going to replace Mike Riley, the guy that would be first on my list would be Trevor Harris, and once again, he just played outstanding and really, he seems to really be fitting in well with what they do. So, Edmonton's going to be a tough out come playoff time.
Yeah, and it's not just Trevor Harris. You got C.J. Gable in the backfield, so you can run the ball, you can throw the ball, and defensively, they held Mike Riley to 6 points, Robert. This team's serious this year.
BC, they are serious. I mean, Edmonton's a very, very good team. Regardless of with Mike Riley being gone. I mean, I always say Mike Riley is my favorite quarterback in the CFL. Because of it. It's just his winning attitude and how he plays the game. but it goes to show you, I mean, I'm really smitten if I can even use that word as a man, on the quarterback position, because personally I was fortunate enough to play with 3 Hall of Famers and Tracy Ham, Doug Flutie, and Damon Allen. So the quarterback position has always been a position to me I pay attention to and to try and understand the guys and how they play the game. And Trevor Harris is good enough to take that team, to that next level and where they need to be. And right now they're just playing well enough to win. And the West, I always say, West is the toughest division. I played in the East, played in the West, and the West is always a tougher division with the Calgarys, the Edmontons, and the BC's playing well now. Winnipeg, Saskatchewan, so it should be interesting.
All right, next up, we got another team that looks extremely serious this year, and that's the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Matt Nichols threw 3 first-half touchdown passes as the undefeated Winnipeg Blue Bombers rolled to a 48-21 home victory against the Toronto Argonauts on Friday night. Had a couple big special teams plays. But the thing here is 48-21, and this game was not as close as that score would indicate, Robert.
Yeah, I mean, I told you earlier, I was talking to former teammates of mine, Marcelo Simmons and Adrian Smith. And Toronto is just, you sit there with your mouth open, like, what's going on? But as a former player, and as someone who's been in the trenches and, been in the locker rooms, and, granted, I was on the teams that won, but the players are starting to doubt themselves, and that's how they play. It's, as you said, this game, it was never a contest, and it's just, it starts getting into your head, and once it starts getting into your head, you don't start pointing fingers, just the players, you start pointing fingers at the general manager, Jim Pop, you start pointing fingers at the owner, you start pointing fingers at everybody but yourself, and it's just a snowball effect, and it's bad for them right now.
Yeah,
especially in that city.
Yeah, because they have a hard time drawing when they're good. So I hate to see what the crowds are going to be by the time you get to October here. Winnipeg, Matt Nichols, 18 for 24, 209 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Andrew Harris, 14 carries, 116 yards. Schmidt, they look a lot like the Edmonton team, where you've got a legit quarterback that can make plays, a great running back, and a really good defense.
Yeah, I think that's the real key that kind of jumps out. Winnipeg has always, last year especially, they were a good offensive team. I mean, at times people kind of question their defense, but now they really look like a complete team. They play well defensively. Offensively, you know what you're going to get. You know you're going to get the ability to throw the football, to run the football. So really, right now, maybe this is the most complete team in the CFL right now. But again, we're early. But right now, they certainly have played like that.
Yeah, and to prove the point about being early, when we talked about Toronto a couple weeks ago on the show, we compared them to Montreal, and we did say that Montreal seemed to be improving where Toronto wasn't. Montreal seems more than improved now. Vernon Adams Jr. passed for a career-high 327 yards and 2 touchdowns to help the Alouettes come back on the road to defeat the Ottawa Red Blacks 36-19 on Saturday. Vernon Adams looked legit, at least in this game, and Montreal may be a team that people need to pay attention to here, Brian.
Yeah, it's so hard because you're really kind of shocked that they are playing like this. But Vernon Adams has played very well. They seem to be gaining some traction. It's going to be interesting to see where they're at as we get 3-4 weeks down the line when we get into that grind. But right now, they're playing well. Can't take anything away from them.
Yeah, and when you look at this, Robert, you talked about it, how the West is always tougher than the East. I mean, Montreal right now, Hamilton looks like by far the best team in the East at 4-1.
Yeah.
But Montreal may be the second best team in the East.
I always say one game does not make you a champion. It was a great win, for Montreal. But then I can go back, and as someone who's a understander of the game of football, I sit here and say it's like, it's an old Ottawa Redbacks that we see. They're so talented on paper, but they find ways to lose games that they should win. So, you don't know what to think. Yes, Montreal is a much proven team from the beginning of the year, but On paper, Ottawa is a much more explosive, a much better team. But and hats off to Montreal. It just evens the East and makes for interesting football. But granted, we're just in the beginning of the season, so a lot's going to pan itself out. And as you said, I think Hamilton's the leader of the East anyway, because they seem like the strongest team.
Yeah, on an 18-game season, they may win this by 9 games. But
yeah.
that's kind of my point. I think that Montreal, this division, is so bad that Montreal may have a shot to make the playoffs.
Yeah, they may have a shot to make the playoffs, but as I said, Hamilton's going to run away with us. Steinauer's doing a great job with him. I play with Orlando,
Yeah. All right, next up, Brandon Banks scored 3 touchdowns to help the Hamilton Tiger Cats come out on top in a tightly contested game against the Calgary Stampeders on Saturday night, earned a 30-23 home victory. And so what's your take now, Brian? I know we weren't completely buying Hamilton at the start of the year, and I don't mean completely buying why we didn't think they were a playoff team, but Jeremiah Masoli played well. And then you get Malik Irons, who runs the ball well. Defensively, they're good. And Brandon Banks is a weapon.
Yeah, he really is. And the one thing I want to touch on is Masoli. He did have the 1 interception, but if you look, every game they played this year for the most part, his completion percentage is always very good. He's not been a turnover machine, and I think they've done a really great job of using Irons and doing with Banks in the passing game, and they put him in the running game at times. They've done a really good job of not putting it all on Jeremiah Masoli, but using the whole offense as a weapon, and I think that we're seeing the effect of that because, this is a huge win. Anytime you can beat Calgary, it's a good win for you.
All right, we go to Calgary. Nick Arbuckle, 24 for 40, 368 yards, no interceptions, but no touchdowns. And I would say here, without Bo Levi-Mitchell, this is not the same team. You can cover it up for a while. Arbuckle played okay, but is Calgary in trouble yet? I know it's early, but Robert.
Too good of an organization to sit here and say that they're in trouble. And you look at the stat line, and amazing stats as far as passing yards, but moving the ball between the 20s and not putting it in the end zone, is not going to win games for you. So that's something Calgary's going to have to solve. Why Bo's gone. It's going to be interesting for them, because they're not they're used to being a dominant team, the one that's talked about, in the CFL, and it's been for years, even since I've been retired from the game, But we have some of these other teams, want to take the lead. Look at what AKA Orlando Steinauer is doing with Hamilton right now. So Calgary, can right the ship, but I think right now they're just trying to find themselves, with Bo Levi-Mitchell, being sidelined.
All right, let's go to the Week 6 picks. You're going to be home or on the first game, Robert? Toronto at Calgary.
Oh, are you kidding me? As I said, talking to former teammates, it's just they're in disarray. They really, as an organization, have to find themselves, and it's just, Jim Pop's a very, very, very good friend of mine. But but it's like it goes without saying. Sometimes you have to get rid of a general manager to get new blood in there to try and figure out, shake things up to get just get new life in it. Because right now in a city that you need to win to keep the fans coming in, because it's the largest city in Canada, so and that's a staple for the CFL to be successful. So it's just there's no way in the world I can pick Toronto in this game because they're just in disarray. No, not Toronto. Calgary's going to win this game and they're going to win it handily.
Yeah. I'm going to say Calgary 163-12. What do you think, Brian?
Yeah, Calgary is going to win this. Obviously, I would pick by a lot more points if Mitchell was playing, but even without him, we'd go a lot higher. But Calgary is going to win this game. We could.
Oh, easily.
We'd have to be kidding ourselves to if Toronto wins this game, it may be one of the biggest upsets in CFL history.
If Toronto wins this game, it's the same effect as when Buster Douglas beat Mike Tyson. Put it that way.
Yep.
Yeah, probably. And that would be an injured Mike Tyson because they don't have Bo Levi Mitchell, but Toronto's going to lose. Next up, Ottawa at Winnipeg. Brian?
Yeah, I'm going to take Winnipeg in this. They're just playing too well. And once again, as we say every year, Ottawa, you don't ever know what team is going to show up. And I just think Winnipeg right now is more of a complete team than maybe any team in the CFL right now.
Yeah, they're up there because defensively, I mean, I think they've given up less points than anybody in the league, too, because they've only given up 79 points. They've scored 138. So the only team that scored more than them is Hamilton. So right now, to me, this looks like Winnipeg, Edmonton, Hamilton. And I'm sure somebody else is going to pop up at some point. But all three of those teams, I think, are complete teams, which is what makes them so dangerous. I'm going to go Winnipeg also, Robert.
Winnipeg. No, they're just playing. I mean, I sit here and look as we talk about these teams, and I'm like, oh, my gosh, wait a minute. All the guys that I play with are head coaches of this team. And Mike would say, Orlando Star, like, holy smokes, I'm old. You're talking about I'm young.
Young for a legend, you know.
But yeah, I got to go with Winnipeg. You know, they're just playing. They're just playing very headsy football right now. And early in the season, that's what you need to be.
All right, next up, a game that all of a sudden is very interesting, Brian. Edmonton at Montreal. I think with Edmonton's defense, maybe we find out a little bit more about Vernon Adams this week.
Yeah, I think this game is going to tell us a lot about where Montreal's at. It's not going to tell us everything week to week, but even if they lose this game but they play well against Edmonton, it's going to say a lot about where Montreal's at. But even with that, I mean, I'm going to take Edmonton. But this game a few weeks ago, I mean, we would have looked at this as
we would have treated it like we treated Toronto and Calgary when we picked that one.
Yes, but now this game's got a little more excitement, a little more interest.
All right, Robert.
My heart and my instinct head tells me Edmonton. That's what I'm staying with. But we just on the Montreal note, with the whole firing of Cadis Reed and intellectually as a former player, sometimes a lot of things that happen upstairs. Or happened upstairs. We said upstairs as players because it meant there was us, the players, and the organization was upstairs. That affects you. So some of these players may have it on your mind, some may not, some may have liked them, some may, whatever it may be. But it definitely has a ripple effect amongst the players. But I think Edmonton is a more talented team. Montreal's a team that's gaining some, but that may affect them in some way that actually will cause them to lose a few games this year, whether it be by a few points or less or anything, but it definitely has an effect on players. And this is from someone who's been there before.
All right, I'm going to go with Edmonton also, but I do expect that Montreal will put up a fight here, and I think that they're going to be in this race to be 500 and maybe get that second spot in the East. So I'm going to go with Edmonton, but I think Montreal will make it a game. Next up, the BC Lions at the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Robert?
Saskatchewan. BC is reeling. I mean, they no identity. No, I mean, it's just, and it's sad to watch. It's like you get these professional organizations, just like, holy smokes, how hard is it to be a general manager and get guys to go out there and scout these players to see if they have the athletic mentality and the mental mentality to go out there and be good players. How can you put a team together that's so bad?
Yeah, it was almost like once they got Mike Riley, they just figured whatever we do, we'll be all right because we got Mike Riley.
Yeah, Mike Riley is your quarterback, one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterback, arguably in the CFL. And you can't surround him with enough talent to win games. Wow,
Yeah. All right.
Like I said, it starts from the top down. It's the management and the general managers. That's.
All right, Brian.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Saskatchewan. I agree with everything Robert said. BC is just playing so poorly, and it's really sad to see. But at this point, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to change. I mean, you'd like to think it will, but
I agree.
I don't know.
I don't think it's going to change either. I think it's going to stay the same the entire year. They do not play well together.
Because they got Mike Riley, I'll give them 5 wins most.
But they got comfortable. Just signing, even in Toronto, when Don Matthews signed Doug Flutie, the minute he signed Doug Flutie, he's like my next step. He always told me, Robert, my next step was to get you as a running back because I knew your talent. I knew you two would complement one another. Then my next step was to get some talented receivers. Then my next step was to build the defense because I knew you guys were going to score points. He was smart enough to understand the talent that he was bringing in. These coaches have to understand it. Just because as talented as Mike Riley is, you have to surround him with people that complement him. And they didn't do a good job of that, and it shows. So just because you have Mike Riley there doesn't mean you're going to go out there and automatically win games. It has to be a cohesion. It has to be something that that clicks, and it's not. And it's like you said, I think they're going to win 4 or 5 games this year. They're not going anywhere.
And without Mike Riley, they'd be like Toronto.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Unfortunately, you're absolutely right.
But, all right, I'm going to go with Saskatchewan also. And then, I can't wait till next week. I think it's Friday, July the 26th. Winnipeg travels to Hamilton. Far this year, I think that's the game of the year coming up.
Okay, fine. Our 2 former teammates again. I'm old.
Well, we need to get Robert a head coaching job in the CFL, but then he probably wouldn't be able to do our show anymore. So, as much money as Robert's making doing that, it's going to take a hell of an offer from a CFL team to get him away from me and Brian. He'll be the first $3 million CFL coach. All right, any final words of wisdom, Brian?
No, there's no real words of wisdom, but I really am interested in that Edmonton-Montreal game, and I didn't really think I'd be saying that a few weeks ago. So it'll be interesting to come back next week and see how that game plays out.
All right, Robert?
I mean, as I watch these games, I mean, I'm always taken back to the fact of, just being, as I said, a connoisseur of watching football and understanding the game and just saying to myself, what were these general managers thinking when they took talented players and surrounded them with players that didn't even compliment them? Of course, you're not going to win. These guys they're not cohesive. They don't get. I mean, not that they don't get along, but they don't mesh. I mean, his talent doesn't fit his talent. So they're not going to gel together. It's all about putting guys in the right place to be successful. That's the one thing I learned from Don Matthews, and I respect him for it. And God rest his soul, he always put his players in a situation to be successful because the players got along and they matched up with one another.
But
I mean, and that's what football is about.
There's very few Don Matthews out there, though.
Yes, I completely agree. But I mean, I just look at the situations that like take Mike Riley for instance. I told you before I was talking about my former teammates. We talk about it. It's like, Robert, we got along. We all just we were like a jigsaw puzzle. We all fit a piece that he had that make us good. And that's why we went 15-3 back-to-back seasons and won the Grey Cup. Probably one of the most dominant teams that ever played in the CFL. If we'd stayed together for 4, 5, 6, 7 years, we'd have probably won the Grey Cup every single year. We were that dominant. But we all just meshed. We weren't the best players in the league, but we just meshed. And I look at a team like BC, which is a talented team, but they don't mesh at all. Toronto, they're not talented, and they don't mesh at all. And it all boils down and goes back to who? The general managers. You can't blame the players all the time. You got to look upstairs and see the guys that are picking these players. It's like who you looking at? Understand your team. Understand what you're doing. And that's what a good general manager does. I'd be an unbelievable general manager because I simply understand what talent it takes to get my quarterback first and then work my way from there. Don Matthews showed me how to do that.
Yeah.
That's what these coaches have to do. And then get a defense and then get some good guys up front, some smart athletic linebackers, some good secondary guys, and build from there. You can see I'm ranting and going off, because it's tough to watch. A league I love just with teams do so bad. It's like, come on, guys, you can't do bad. It's like you're already not a powerful league, competing against the NFL, which you may think, but you're, just be a lot better, and you're not. And it's frustrating to watch.
Yeah, and we see it at all levels of football with people that don't know what they're doing trying to run a football team.
Oh, we do. It's frustrating to watch. It's like, good grief.
Yep. But all right, guys.
You have Mike Riley as your quarterback.
You can keep going, Robert. We're fine.
No, I'm just saying. No, I'm saying you have Mike Riley as your quarterback. Give him the intangibles and the opportunity to be successful. You know, you're going to go with a Canadian offensive line, so get guys in there. You know, Mike Riley needs the ball anywhere from 3 to 4 seconds to hold on to make a perfect pass for him. So get guys that can block for 3 to 4 seconds. Give him a good, talented running back that can, hammer him out anywhere from 4 to 5 to 6 yards every carry. Well, give him receivers that he can adequately, get downfield to separate from DBs that allow him. They don't have to be deep. They don't have to be great receivers, but guys that can separate themselves from DBs and get him into a rhythm that allows him to be successful. He's a great quarterback. Why is he looking so bad this year? Again, you didn't surround him with the talent that you needed to be successful. And and that's not on Mike Riley or anybody else in DC. That's on the upper management. Upper management never gets flack for anything that goes wrong. It's always on the players. But start blaming the people up front who sign guys that aren't talented enough to go out there and be able to win. And that's the truth.
I agree with you
the grueling
completely.
truth.
And, I'm a Bengals fan, Robert, so this happens every year, every Sunday that I've seen since, 1988. So, I mean, it's amazing the amount of guys who are not qualified to have a job, to get a job because of who they know or who they're related to.
Crazy. They have no idea what they're doing or how to assess talent or how to put a team together that can win championships. That's why, though I don't like them, I have so much respect for the Cowboys and St. Peter's. Though I don't like them, I have so much respect for the New England Patriots. I do. They know how to put teams together that are
actually,
solid.
The way the Patriots have done
teams.
this, and they've done it so long, I actually like them because I wish my team would do that shit, and they just don't. But then again, just like you with Don Matthews, you got lucky Don Matthews was your coach, and the Patriots got really lucky that they got Bill Belichick. And they got and the big thing here is this, though. If you look back, the Cowboys, when they had, the triplets and they had Jimmy Johnson coaching them, if their owner doesn't interfere, that team might have won 5 or 6 Super Bowls in a decade.
I agree. I completely agree.
So Robert Kraft, by not doing anything and just staying out of the way, is a great owner because of that, because he got the guy there that could fix things. He let him fix it, and then he just sat there and he went and he got a hand job from a masseuse and just chilled out.
Yeah, I mean they're great. They know how to put players together. It's very smart. You just look at your talent. You have to look at the bigger picture. Don't just sign somebody because they're talented. You have to sign somebody, and be able to mesh him with other guys that fit into his talent. I fit in perfectly with Doug Flutie's talent. Doug Flutie loved to throw the ball, but I was a receiver also, so that was no problem with that. But I was a big power back that could get him yards. I can get Doug anytime, 2nd and 5, or 2nd and 4, or 2nd and 3. He loved that. It was easy for him. See, Don said they knew that. Even when I went to BC, and Adam Reeder was out there. Adam was like, Robert, Damon's a different type different type quarterback than Doug Flutie, but you can put Damon in situations to be successful. And and I understood that. Damon was, and I don't mean this the wrong way, but Damon wasn't the smartest quarterback at Doug. Doug could pick things up real quick and just adjust on the fly. Damon was more precision, from the book textbook, go out there and run plays that are called. Doug improvised more than Damon. That's the word I'll use. I mean, Doug improvised on the field. We would make up plays immediately on the field. All right, you do this, you run this route, literally drawing it in, on the turf. I'm like, wow, this is gonna work. He's like, yep, sure enough, it worked. Doug was a genius like that. But we myself, Mazzotti, Mookie Mitchell, Pinball Clemens, we fit his style of offense, and that's what these teams got to start doing more. Calgary understands that. Edmonton understands that. Winnipeg understands that. The teams that are winning, they get it. Toronto, BC, they don't get it. And that's not the players. Who is that? The management. I'm so tired of players getting railed on all the time when it's not their fault. It's the management. It's the general managers. And that's why I told you about the whole Cavis Reed situation. Cavis was not doing the job he needed. Well, there was more to it than that, but doing the job he needed to do to put players in positions to be successful. That's what you got to do as a GM. And these guys don't get it, and it's frustrating to watch.
But Yes, it is. And we watch it every year with different teams. But that's also why you have dominant teams. That's why the Steelers are always good. The Patriots are always good. The Stampeders are always good. And because they have the better ownership. So, all right,
you're
guys.
100% correct.
All right. We are going to go ahead and we're going to wrap it up. And next week, we're going to let Robert rant again because this is going to happen all year. You know it's going to happen all year, Robert, because it's a joke. And I agree with you. And to watch people that know nothing about football try to run a football team, and that's why Toronto has, even when they're good, 8,000 people show up. There's no excitement created. You got to be able to market and sell it. Plus, you got to put a good product on the field. And
you notice I stayed away from saying the whole Jim Pop thing because he's a friend of mine, but I just kept my mouth quiet.
Yeah, but I'm not even talking about Jim Pop because it's been going that way for a while down there in Toronto. So Pop's only been there for, what, a year or two?
No, he's been there 3 years.
2, 3? Okay. So, all right. We'll leave it alone since he's a friend of yours. All right, guys, we're going to wrap the show up and hope Toronto does better. And hope that we have more competition than what we've seen so far because to me, my final thought is if I could only watch one game this weekend, I'm watching Montreal against Edmonton. I think it's the most competitive. I think the other three are pretty much kind of one-sided. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. I want to remind you to go to betnow.eu, click the promo code, or click the banner on thegruelingtruth.com. Use the promo code TRUTH50 for a 50% cashback bonus up to your first $1,000 deposit. So remember, you can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, and like 300 other places. So all you got to do is go on the computer, type in The Grueling Truth, and you can listen to us somewhere. But we're going to wrap it up for tonight. So for Robert Drummond, Brian Schmidt, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.